before this work, I was thinking, oh, I need to take every single piece of business that I can get thrown my way. That's just not the case, because I want to work with people who want to actually work with me and get to know who I am and why I do what I do.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of the RE Junkies podcast, where we supply your regular fix of all things real estate. Make sure you're the first to get your dose of the RE Junkies podcast by subscribing on your favorite podcasting platform or YouTube. I'm Brooks O'Hearn, joined by my co-host Kaiten Murphy, and today we are so excited to welcome in our friend Chad Johnerson. Chad, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well. We are so excited to have you here. I know you and I know each other through your first intro into real estate, and we're going to get to touch on that. Just a quick highlight about you. I know you're a small town kid with big dreams, and you use your real estate as a platform to pursue your purpose. To pursue your purpose. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the episode. I know you're doing a lot of providing clean water to underserved communities, and that is amazing. I love what you do, and I follow it on social media. So can't wait to dive more into that. Also, for those listeners, Chad got started in real estate. He was working full-time as an engineer. And Chad, I remember some of our first conversations as mentor and mentee. And I remember, I think it was our very first conversation, and you were like, I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to go all in. Like I want to go all in to real estate. So tell us a little bit more about how you got into real estate and then that transition period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was itching at the trigger for sure. I first kind of stumbled across real estate. Actually, it was through investing in stocks and options. And there was a mentor that I had who had, encouraged us, hey, if you make a bag, get into real estate. I knew I wanted to either invest in real estate or work in real estate. Didn't know what capacity it was really going to be in. However, right after I graduated college, I just started working as an engineer. Was doing it full time, really wasn't loving the work, wasn't super passionate about it. Saw the people in my field, realized like, hey, I don't want to be where you're at in 40 years. Like, granted, they're very well off, they're successful. They just weren't happy. And I knew ultimately, like, I wanted to be happy and I wanted to make a difference. And so I looked at essentially what I was doing in my career, and I was like, well, I have a ceiling here as an engineer, or I can really lean into this real estate thing, either get my license or really start investing hard in it, and then actually make a tangible difference in the world. Because I didn't want to just live a life without purpose, where I wasn't helping people, or I wasn't truly making a difference day in and day out. So I got my real estate license actually in the middle of the pandemic, which I think a lot of agents did. And, yeah. It was really not necessarily easy. It was just accessible, right? Like, real estate shifted so much during the pandemic. I think it just opened up a ton of doors for a lot of people who were like, hey, I want to give this a shot. And so, yeah, I got licensed online. I was working, 8 to 10 hour days as an engineer. And then after work, I would spend 4 or 5 hours studying for my license and my test.
Yeah. And that grind then continued into your first year. And so I want to make sure I've got these stats right, and make sure everybody listening has this down. So you did 7 transactions in your first year as a realtor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your first 3 months of year 2, you had 6 close.
Yeah, that's right.
So first quarter of your second year, you've closed. You closed 6. You almost matched the production of year 1. And now fast forward, you're 18 months into your license, or just a little under 18 months into your license. You've got 15 deals under your belt. And I very vividly remember how fast you were to jump in and willing you were to jump in. And I know that it took, first off, those 4 or 5 hours from every night studying, or mornings, outside of your workday studying. And then that transitioned over into 4 to 5 hours of of work, right? And I remember your first deal was the mobile home, right?
Yeah.
So what, like it was like a $53,000 listing or something like
Yeah, it's super small, right? Like,
that. So
and
so
it didn't matter. I learned so much from that one deal alone that I was like able to help. It was crazy. I had like literally experienced agents reaching out to me like, "Hey, I got this mobile home listing coming up like in this area. Like, can you help me out? Kind of navigate how this goes, right? Because I've had these conversations with other agents already. Like when I had it listed, and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. How can I help you?"
yeah, I mean, you taught me some stuff even as your mentor on that deal, because I knew just enough to be dangerous in the mobile home side, and I was like, I think I said this to you. I was like, well, we're going to learn quite a bit together, because I'm going to help you get it across the finish line, but let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
So obviously that success has not come without a ton of hard work and without some grinding. So talk to us about a low point, or a pit, as we call it, in your entrepreneurial journey, and how that came about, and then we'll get into some learning lessons.
Mhm. Yeah. Gosh, I I didn't realize how consumed that you could be by this journey or by your work. I leaned in so hard to real estate when I first started out, where I was like absolutely grinding. I was doing 40 hours of work as an engineer, and then 40 to 50 hours of work of real estate outside of that as well, whether it was like on the weekends, evening, nights, early in the mornings. uh, and it took a lot of time away from me. It took a lot of time away from family. It took a lot of time away from friends. It took time away from relationships as well. And like as a result, one of those relationships failed. It just That's what happens when you get so consumed with the grind, and you don't really take a second to take a step back and realize what you're going through, what you're putting yourself through, what you're putting other people through. Um, and it wasn't until like I took time to reflect on myself that I realized like, hey, like real estate doesn't necessarily need to be something that absolutely consumes your life and harms these relationships that you have with people. It needs to be something that adds to not only my life, the people's lives that are, that I choose to run with. So, um, yeah, I was I was working full time, and I decided, all right, I needed to take some time back from engineering, and I cut down to part time. I'd say about 5 6 months ago, and then I have since actually left engineering altogether because I realized like how tough it can be on your social and personal life when you're working as much as you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, they say entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and
Mm.
I think, I mean, you're expressing that right now. Obviously, what are some of the things that you talked a little bit about your learning lessons? What are some of the things that you might have changed over your first 18 months, or some advice you could give to someone just getting their license with the same drive as you, right? Because the amount of time that you put in was necessary to get this start you've had.
Mhm.
What's some advice you would give maybe to yourself 18 months ago, or someone in that same place who's trying to start out and balance a full-time job?
Yeah. Time on task is so key. If you can pick one thing that you really want to focus on for your lead generation strategy, whether that is cold calling expireds, cold calling FISBOs, circle prospecting, door knocking, whatever it is, choose one and really just lean into that and focus on time on task. If you spend 2 hours a day doing that one thing, you can be really dangerous really quick, and you could take an unfair share of your market. um, that's something that I wish I had done. I wish I wasn't so like, I mean, real estate is like it's a shiny object syndrome. Oh, look at this over here. Oh, look at that over there. Like you're literally like, you get distracted so easily, especially when you're brand new in the industry. And another piece of advice that I would give, newer agents is like, you're going to be sold to more than you ever have in your entire life. as a new real estate agent, whether that's, through brokerages or people selling you services or lead generation ideas, whatever it is. There's no silver bullet. There's nothing magical really that you can find. Pick something that you're good at or that you enjoy and just stick to it.
I love that. I love
I think
that.
that's so key. It's picking something that you enjoy and sticking to it, because Brooks and I talk about this all the time. There's a million ways to build a successful real estate business, but if you hate what you're doing day in and day out and how you're building your business, you're going to go through a constant cycle of burnout. And you're just going to hate it. And you're going to end up chasing all of those silver bullets because you're not happy. And so I think that that's fantastic advice. What is your preferred lead generation method?
I personally enjoy cold calling. I don't know what it is about it. I just enjoy getting on the phone and, having conversations every once in a while. Like I get the laughs out of the people that cuss me out or, that tell me to screw off or whatever it is. Like it's something that you would never experience in really any other industry. So that's what I like to do.
The high of cold calling. I love it.
I love that. I love that. For everybody listening, Chad documents his journey and shares a ton of information on his social media platforms. And you can follow him on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. His YouTube channel is full of gold. TikTok and Instagram also full of great marketing ideas. And Chad shares the raw truth with his followers there. So the links are in the show notes here if you're looking to connect and learn a few things from an agent who has been highly successful in his first 18 months. Chad, I love following you and hope the listeners do as well. I love that you said the silver bullet comment. And one thing I always mention is the fact that like no marketing campaign is going to produce a different level of motivation out of the person on the other end of the phone. It's all just the same lead. It's just a matter of how you get it, how much time you want to put in, or how much money you want to put in. And then from there, it gets into closing. Mm-hmm. And so you started at the $50,000 mobile home, and now you've grown your average deal much larger than that. All right. We did not cover those stats before the episode, so I will not try to quote those. But I know just from our interactions, it's much greater than $50,000 per commission or per sale. And what would you attribute your ability to close at a higher level? Most people would say, hey, you're an engineer in your full-time job, and then moving into real estate, that is a drastic shift, right? Engineering is not selling, closing. Most engineers, to be quite frank, are not great communicators and are not extroverts and would probably rather do a million other things than cold call. What are some things that you did and again, that you would help attribute to your ability to close?
Honestly, just like really truly caring about this person that you're helping. Like, I mean, like, get real with them, be authentically you around them. Like they want to be just as invested in your success as you want to be invested in them closing this home. They do. That is the truth. And if you're not being as like honest and authentic as you possibly can be with a client, you're not going to have that real deep, genuine connection that's literally going to have them raving about you and sending all of their friends and family to you. Right. And one thing that I can attribute to finding that mindset was just personal growth, really spending a lot of time and money in that area of my life, because I knew that was something that I really, really wanted to lean into and do. I was like, this year I told myself, I'm going to spend more money on personal growth than I am on business development. And most people will not do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we get into that, I want to cover a little bit more of the tactical lead gen really quickly, and then we're going to dive headfirst into the personal development, because Kate and I are all about that, and we know that entrepreneurs, need to start with personal development. I think I say it all the time. You can teach a monkey to run spreadsheets and calculate numbers. I could teach a dog to run comps, right? Like if that's what you think agents do every day is just run comps and provide, then you got a rude awakening coming.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on that here in a second. Lead gen, you talked about a lot of different things, and your need or your advice to just focus on one thing and really lean heavily into that. You have found your calling or your happy place in cold calling. You've also grown a very successful YouTube channel that has brought you some deals already.
Yeah.
What were some of the other lead gen tactics that you started with, and kind of how did those evolve, and how'd you kick them off the bus?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I was just like any other newer agent when I started out, and like I had money to throw at things. Being a full-time engineer, you know, I had that luxury. I was like, I guess I'll give this a shot. We'll see how it works out. I mean, I spent some money on like paid advertising, whether it was like marketing through Facebook or Google Ads, and I mean, I feel like I hired a service for like building out, you know, your Google presence and your LSA. And then I realized I can just do all of these things on my own in my free time. So those things were all kind of like threw by the wayside at this point. I don't mess with literally anything, any paid services like that anymore. One thing that I have focused on, honestly, is like doing lead gen for renters, which is actually going to sound really weird. However, you can take a renter and you can turn them into a full-blown commission check if you understand that there are programs out there that you can help, you know, renters be turned into buyers. And I've been doing that with a business partner of mine where we're running a play where, you know, we're looking to add 3 to 5 million in revenue every 2 months to agents' pipelines, where they're like literally just working with renters to help them find the perfect home. Then they buy it. Then the renters come back and rent it back from those buyers. So, and that's absolutely free, actually, which is huge. And it doesn't take a ton of my time to sort of set those up.
I love that. Can you share, without giving away your business plan, can you share a little bit more of, you mentioned you work with the renters, and then you, they find the house they want to rent, and then you on the back end also help an investor buyer,
correct,
who then rents it out to them. So you're really just it's like full service, obviously, for both sides, right? Okay.
Yep. So I'll just tell, like, there are programs out there like Divvy is a great rent to own program. Home Partners is honestly super solid for a bunch of renters, especially in major metro areas. I know they're pulling out of other areas here and there. There's been quite a few cities that they pulled out of recently. So don't know how long that's going to last. If you want to run that into the ground, then hey, jump on board. We're going to take advantage of that till the end. There are some local rent to own programs that I know of too, as well, here in Denver, that are headed up by agents. And I've been contemplating starting essentially my own, where I'm servicing some underserved renters, especially those that are Section 8 tenants. For some reason, they are not being served as well as some of the general public, because, you know, their credit may not be as good. And I understand that, like, you know, landlords can get away with saying, hey, your credit needs to be above a certain amount. And that's sort of how they're kind of disqualifying these people before they even get a chance to get into the home. And so now I've been thinking creatively of like, how can I help these people out, and, you know, also put myself in a position where I'm not only winning, the tenants are winning, and the seller who may need to sell like really badly is also winning too. So getting creatively with seller financing, or, you know, crowdsourcing some funds for down payments, whatever it might be. That's kind of my next business venture.
I love that. And I can't wait to hear more about that. You hit the nail on the head. And I think this is something that most agents don't even realize is an opportunity. And I I look at it, and the renting qualifications are so backwards to me in this industry, because if renters had, 3 times income, and if they had the credit score where most places try to put it, and it's a lot of times it's private landlords, and I understand, right? They're trying to protect themselves, but if you've got a renter with 3 times the income and a 700 plus credit score, well, they would be buying a house. They would not be renting. So you have to set up a rental program to allow people with lower credit scores and lower income an opportunity to get in. So I love that. And you're taking it a step further. And not only are they just, they're not only are they getting a roof over their head and they're finding good housing, but now you're taking it a step further and helping them actually buy the house and working with that program down the road. So that's incredible. And it's a very underserved portion of the population. Next question. Let's get into YouTube for a second.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, you've grown a lot. I know. You talked about a lot of other things, but YouTube, like I said, you've got a great channel and it has brought you already a few deals. How many?
I closed one back in May, and then I have had several reach outs from people that have just like seen my channel. There's some buyers that I'm still staying in contact with, and they're just waiting for essentially the right time to buy.
I love it. And for the people at home, roughly how many subscribers do you have on your channel?
185. That's it. Like, that's what's crazy. Is like, you don't need a massive following with YouTube, right? You just need to serve the right client, and they will find you if they really, and if they resonate with you, they'll work with you.
Absolutely.
So what kind of content are you putting up on YouTube?
So I do monthly market reports is like one of the main ones that I do every month. And then every single week I'm doing just a home tour, which is crazy. There are like studies and just like case after case of just agents that literally only do home tours that do, 30, 40, 50 million in volume, like crazy numbers. Right. And that's all I've been doing. It really is just like home tours. I'll do some value add. Sometimes I'll talk about, I guess one of my best performing videos is, I think it's like 8 questions to ask your custom home builder, because that's something that I really do want to focus on as I continue to grow in the space. Is like, if you're looking to build custom, I'm the person that you're going to come to and say, hey, help us find a piece of land. And then we're going to go down this custom home route. So
I love that. That's home awesome. Tours were actually a great way that I grew my Instagram following as well. People love home tours because it's like HGTV in your pocket. Right. So it's so much fun. And I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that on YouTube too. I might have to pop over there as well.
Yeah, it's a little more long form content. However, I do like to release like teasers on my Instagram. There will be one today.
Perfect.
A home tour that's dropping this evening. And the tours are, just, I have a short intro. I walk through the home. I shut up, don't say anything, like just walk through the home, let the people enjoy it. And then at the end of it, there's a little outro. And like, obviously, the calls to action is like the key things that you have in your intro and your outro. People need to know how to get a hold of you. And once they know that, they'll reach out when they're ready.
Absolutely. And you do, obviously the video that you just described is super simple editing, right? You're not throwing, you're not Steven Spielberg in here and, putting a ton of crazy work into it, but you are editing your videos pretty easily, correct?
Yeah, that's right. All my home tours I edit on my own. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes really to throw the 3 clips together. Like I do my intros and outros in one take. At this point, I got it down pack, and then I'm throwing a couple of visual things that I have saved. I just throw it over the top on the timeline, and a couple sound effects here and there. Nothing crazy. My long form informational videos, I will ship those off to an editor, and I will outsource that, because it's just, I'm not going to spend 2, 3 hours, 4 hours of my time editing a YouTube video when I could be, doing something more productive, like showing homes or making calls.
I love it.
You got that figured out.
I love it. So let's move back to the personal development.
Mm.
And this, to me, I think is probably one of those the moments, or the kind of light bulb moments where you start coming out of the pit, right?
Mhm.
And you hit that hard point in entrepreneurship where friendships, family relationships start to get difficult. I don't know if we want to say fail. Some of them did, right?
Mhm.
But you've got some aha moments, and you've got some learning lessons as you get yourself off the mat and start to climb out of it. So talk to the listeners about your journey there. What were some of the personal development things, and then some of your takeaways as well?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so I actually got involved with um, a local personal development company here in Denver. And it was something that was introduced to me by actually a realtor I worked with to buy my current spot before I was an agent. I had my license by the time I closed on the property. However, I was like, hey, you should put in the work. So I'm going to let her get the closing, which was, it was nice. And then she invited me to come check out this class. It was 2.5 days. And the rest is history. Changed my life. And I was like, this is something I really need to focus on. Some of the biggest takeaways that I've had from the work that I've done is that, you know, a lot of the issues that we face or we seem to keep running into, if they're reoccurring, you're going to ask yourself, is it me, or is it me, or is it me? Yeah, it's probably yourself, right? Where you just need to look inwardly at yourself, realize, hey, I'm the source of all of these, issues that could be handled, because it's controllable, right? As long as we can control the controllables, everything else we just need to, like, hey, hands off. That's out of my control. That, it is what it is sometimes, right? Um, those have been super key in helping to protect, I would say, like, my mental health and state. Just like really leaning into that. The fact of the matter is, like, there are things that I can control, and there are things that I'm not able to. And those things that I'm not able to, they don't affect me anymore. Whereas they used to. They used to literally, like, dictate my day, my emotions, uh, you know, how I spent my time. So,
So I'm curious, two things. First of all, how has your real estate career changed since going full time into real estate from engineering? And then, second part to that question is, how has the personal development, was that pretty immediate after leaving your engineering job full
oh,
time?
I actually, yeah, I started that personal development work when I was still working part time as an
Okay.
engineer.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, I just recently sort of transitioned out of the engineering role.
Okay. So then how has that changed your real estate career as well?
Hmm. So, first question again.
How has your real estate career changed since leaving engineering?
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
So,
I mean, wherever you want to take that.
since leaving engineering, honestly, it's given me back so much time that I didn't realize that I was sort of wasting, in a sense. Uh, the productivity levels and the time on task has just been, like, exponentially um, better for myself. I find myself not, like, stressing nearly as much as I did over, like, the menial small tasks. Um, Now that I'm completely done with the engineering work. So um, being full time in real estate, yeah, it's a blessing to really structure the day how I want my day to be structured. And then in terms of, like, how that personal growth has affected my real estate business, it's allowed me to actually be honest with myself and with my clients on a whole different level. Um, Whether that's realizing I may not be the best person to serve a person and literally handing them off to someone else. It's business, right? Like, my mindset is, business is unlimited. I don't need every single piece of business that comes my way. So being able to literally just let let other people take care of someone who I feel is a better fit, then that's something that I've really taken away, because before this work, I was thinking, oh, I need to take every single piece of business that I can get thrown my way, and that's just not the case, because I want to work with people who want to actually work with me and get to know who I am and why I do what I do.
Yeah. Well, that's what we always say. You don't need clients. You want clients who want to work with you.
Mhm.
And I don't know you very well, but the common theme that I continue to pick up with everything you're saying is that you have a passion for helping people. You're honest and you're able to mix that with the things that you're good at and the things that you enjoy. And that's why you've been so successful and will continue to be so successful. Because a lot of the things you're saying, I hear agents, I talk to agents who have been in the business for like 30 years and they're like, well, I wish I would have known this 30 years ago. It took me so long. And you're 18 months in and you've already realized the majority of the things that it takes people so long to realize. So kudos to you for that. And that's, I think, why Brooks and I are so big on personal development as well, because it really does kind of help you get honest with yourself and your clients, which ultimately helps everyone win.
Mhm.
Yeah, you talked about structuring your own day, and after you transition full time, because a lot of agents, a lot of new entrepreneurs get out of their full time gig, and then that word structure creeps in, because generally, like day one and day two, your head pops off the pillow. You're really happy. You get up, you get going, and you're working in real estate, and then a lot of agents, a lot of new entrepreneurs are like, okay, it's 10 a.m. Like, what the hell do I do now? Because by 10 a.m., by 10 a.m. At my other job, I already had 72 more tasks that I had to do for the rest of the day. And I had someone telling me what to do every day. So how do you structure your day? How did you find that balance? And what are some tips you can give to people who are transitioning from full-time 9 to 5 and into then full-time real estate?
Yeah. I'm actually going to go back to when I first started, because that's when this concept of time blocking really stuck with me. When I was first starting my licensing journey, I would wake up at 4:30. I would go and work out from 5 to 6. And then at the time, I was also studying for an exam that was related to engineering. So from 6 to 7, I would come back. I would study for that, and then I would start my work day at 7. From 7 to 3, that's work, right? Nothing else gets in. I don't get distracted by other things. And then from 3 to 4, I would reset again and I would work out a second time. And then that would kind of set the second half of my day where, from 4 to 7, I was doing studying for my real estate exam. And then, 7 to 8, I would be reading, winding down, making dinner, whatever it was. So now that I'm full time in real estate, it looks similar, not nearly as early or as late, which is great, right? Because to be honest, you don't need to work 12 to 16-hour days to be successful. You really don't, right? You can get all of your revenue producing activities done in a 3-hour time frame. So I wake up at 5 now, and then I go and work out at 5:30, get back by around 6:30, 7-ish. And then, from 7 to 9, it's making myself breakfast, reading 30 minutes, just smaller things that I really want to focus on. I also read the Bible, and then I pray right in the mornings. Those are like non-negotiables. Those are things I need to get done in the morning in order to set the tone right. By the time 9 a.m. rolls around, from 9 to noon, that's the revenue producing activities. That's where I'm doing my cold calls. The majority of the time, it'll be 1 to 2 hours right in there. And then maybe I am following up with past clients who are maybe not even past clients that I'm working with, touching base with them, making sure, we're on task, we're setting up showings or whatever we need to get done in that time block. And then from 12 to 3, you can set aside time for following up with your emails, getting back on text messages, responding to social media posts, because that's such a big key of our business now, where like people reach out to you on social media, you need to interact with them, right? Like that's how you build a brand. So like I'll set aside time literally in my day where I'm like responding to DMs, to comments, to whatever it may be. And then from 3 to 6, as you know, if I have showings or listing appointments or any sort of appointments, those are handled during that time frame. And then from 6 to 9, it's sort of winding down the evening, eating, reading again, or read a second time in the evenings, and then really just like get focused for the day ahead. For tomorrow, I'll write down essentially the tasks that I really want to get done, and I'll structure my day the night before of like what I really want to do and what I really need to get done.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. That's another thing, again, that it takes agents 30 years to learn how to structure a day like that. And a lot of times people, they kind of luck into deals and luck into some business and things like that. But you're very intentional. You're very, very intentional. And what you said about social media resonates with Kaiten and I. And I notice the intentionality in every single task that you just described. Right. And it's systematic. It's an approach, and it doesn't need to be, like you said, it doesn't need to be 16 hours a day or 12 hours a day. A lot of people I talk to, they're like, oh, if you're not spending 10 hours a day as an agent, then you're losing to the competition. You're doing a lot of stuff. The reality is, if you're even spending probably 4 hours a day of really genuinely solid, focused work and in just lead gen and follow up, you're probably ahead of 90% of agents.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the intentionality of that. And I hope the listeners are taking notes. Want to talk now about where you're headed. And this, we talked about the rent to own program. We've talked about some things you're working on in the future. I really want to dive in and learn a little bit more about the clean water initiative that you're working with. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term for purpose instead of for profit. But that is everything I've seen. Your business is really for purpose right now. And so share with us the purpose and the mission behind that clean water.
Yeah. So that was sort of the reflecting period that I had during COVID when I was working as an engineer. I was like, what do I want to do? Like, how do I want to make a difference in the world? I was like, where are there issues in the world that can be solved that I think should not be an issue? And I remember watching a documentary back in college. Actually, I think there was like a program that Bill Gates had sponsored or had invested in, and essentially it was taking a lot of like waste material and then turning that into clean, purified drinking water. And they were building these machines, and they were going to essentially bring them out to all these affected areas or impoverished areas, right, where people could utilize them. Cool, right? It's very cool in theory, and it works. However, the people that you bring that to, they don't understand like the reason behind it. Unless you educate them on the importance of clean water, they're never going to buy into it. They're never going to get behind something like that. So I found Charity Water. I believe it was in college, and I didn't really think too much of it at the time. And then I revisited it when I was like, all right, what do I want to do? How do I want to make a difference? I want to eliminate deaths from lack of clean water. That is my purpose in a sentence right there. That's it. And if I can do that, awesome. What's the next challenge to take on, right? Because I was really inspired from Tony Robbins and his mission to feed 1 billion people, right, in 10 years. And he's going to do it, which is crazy, right? It's a massive amount of people being fed through that. And I was like, all right, so if I can eliminate, 4% of deaths every single year from lack of clean water, how is that going to like raise the tide for all ships, right? In a sense, how do we lift everyone up? And like, you never know, the person's life that you save could be someone who can, change the course of humanity forever. That's the way I look at it. If you can change one person's life, that is, capable of impacting all of the human population, or maybe their families, or making generational wealth, whatever it is, that's what I'm about.
I love that.
I love that. And anybody who's listening and wants to get involved with Charity Water and with Chad, make sure you reach out to him on social media. As we mentioned, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. His links are in the show notes right now. So you can click on his profile and reach out to him immediately. He will get back to you at some point between 12 and 3 p.m. Mountain Time daily.
So true.
No, but in all honesty, I love that initiative, and I love watching you post and also post about the results that come from that. So again, guys, not only is Chad dropping a ton of knowledge every single day for house tours and great social media content that actually produces leads and results, you can actually still get in touch with him and work with him and Charity Water on his initiative right there. So if you're listening and that touched your heartstrings, definitely reach out to him. Again, click the links in the show notes and he will get you set up. So Chad, we want to move now into the lightning round. All right. And everybody who's been listening knows we don't give you guys any prep for it. So these are just going to be some quick questions, just, rattle off first thing that comes to mind. We may ask a few follow-up questions, but to kick it off, I want to know, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Skydive instructor.
Ooh.
Dang. All right.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone skydiving?
I'm going on Friday.
So by the time this episode airs, you will see.
That's amazing.
He will see
I'm
Chad
excited.
skydiving. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay, if you could sit on a bench and chat with someone for 1 hour, who would it be?
Napoleon Hill.
Nice.
I love it. I love it. What's your ideal vacation in one sentence?
Sunsets and margaritas.
All right.
We
My
can be
man.
friends.
My man.
Okay, if you could retire tomorrow, money not being an issue, what would you do? Like, what would you spend your time doing?
I would be building my nonprofit also focused around providing clean water outside of just Charity Water. So that's what I would do.
I love it. I love it. What are 5 things that you cannot live without?
Oh my gosh. Golf. I absolutely love water, which like some people are like, I don't understand why you love water as much as you do. I love water. Like it's a staple for everything. Working out, like I could not live without a gym. Absolutely have to have a gym. Man, I'm very simple. I feel like there's 3 things.
You're very
I really
simple.
could not live without. Boy.
What's your favorite food?
Yeah, I was gonna say Indian food is like up there. Could not.
Okay.
Indian food and
Absolutely
water.
love
What else
Indian
do you need
food.
to survive?
And also, breakfast is just such a staple. I love breakfast. Not allowed to miss breakfast.
I love it. I love it. All right. You had me at golf, water, and gym. Indian food.
No.
My sinuses are way too white for that. Okay.
Brooks doesn't
I
do
like the
spicy well.
taste. I like the taste of spicy food, but my friends like to mess around with me and call me Patrick Ewing when I eat spicy food because I need a Gatorade towel because I sweat. So yeah, Indian food, very small doses for me. Very small doses for me. So all right, Chad, we're gonna round this out with, and you've talked about this a lot. We've discussed a lot of advice for new agents and things. Let's get really specific here. And if I took everything away from you that you have achieved in the last 18 months, but you still had all your knowledge and you had to go back and start over and get a deal within the first 30 days, what are the step-by-step things you would do?
First thing that I would do, honestly, would be to acquire a list of leads. And that may look like literally picking up a phone book. I mean, you can find phone books pretty much, I think you can find them at post offices. And then like, yeah, if you had no money as well, like then in a phone, I would just go through literally calling that phone book until you were able to set appointments get in the door and, create a deal for yourself literally out of thin air with no money.
I love it. What's your favorite piece of value to offer on that call to get you in that door and get an appointment?
I guess it's not necessarily value. It's really understanding why. Like, why would someone even want to sell in the first place? Most agents, yes, you can lead with value, and yes, you can be successful leading with just value. However, when you really understand what it is that the seller is attempting to do in their life, and you really care about helping them achieve that I think is the surefire way to get you in the door.
I love that. I love that. That's great actionable advice. And, we always end with that question for agents, and the vast difference just shows how vastly different everybody can be in real estate. But it's super simple and super actionable. And so yet again, I love that you kept things very simple and very intentional there. For those of you guys listening at home, thank you for joining us today. If you like this week's dose of the RE Junkies podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a crazy real estate story or a great case study, click the submission link in the show notes to be featured on an upcoming episode. Submissions can remain anonymous if you want, and we'll catch you junkies next time on the only real estate podcast of its kind.